There are some difficult questions right now on the international stage. We're seeing that play out. One of the big ones, which Peter and others have talked about, is, yes, you are standing by Ukraine right now, United States. You are standing by the need to address the climate crisis. You're standing by the need to return to global norms. But for how long? And what happens if power changes in the White House?
Let's play that exchange, in fact.
What actions will you take to assure Finland that the US will remain a reliable NATO partner for decades to come?
I absolutely guarantee it. There is no question. There's overwhelming support from the American people. There's overwhelming support from the members of the Congress, both House and Senate, in both parties, notwithstanding the fact there's some extreme elements of one party. We will stand together.
So what's your evaluation of what you've seen today and what you saw, importantly, in Vilnius with Zelensky and with the allies?
Well, I think that the president is trying to keep hold of those alliances that he's worked very hard to rebuild in the last couple of years in the wake of the Trump administration, where they were shattered, to be honest. But it is exactly the right question, because what allies have seen around the world is when there was a change in leadership, for the first time, really, I mean, there's been agreement over decades on what our norms should be and what U.S. policy should be on a number of issues as it relates to the strength of NATO and what our values should be. But that changed with Trump, and that makes a lot of our allies and partners nervous. You're seeing that reflected. It is in the U.S. interest for Finland to be an important partner. That reporter and that journalist knows that. The president feels that. But yes, we've seen politics shift, how that's handled from the White House over recent years.
It's fascinating to me. Over the decades, Finland has been neutral. And the fact that Finland and now Sweden as well, Finland's joining, Sweden now has at least gotten past the opposition by Erdogan and will be joining. They have very good militaries. They are going to be really important partners. Mm-hmm. The fact that they have such assets there and this 830-mile border, we haven't seen fully the Putin reaction. He was supposed to have a big tech conference, his annual meeting today, and I have to check what's happened in the last hour since I've been upstairs. But it just seems that we're going to see some other reactions from him as well. But this has been tough for the president. And we've got to say he's papered over a lot of these differences pretty well.
Well, I think what people don't see behind the scenes and what is happening at the White House right now and was happening when I was there is the president is working the phones constantly with partners and allies. Jake Sullivan is working the phones constantly. Tony Blinken is, to keep everybody on the same page or close to the same page in supporting Ukraine, providing military supports, providing financial and economic support. That is not easy politically in every country in Europe. It's not easy necessarily politically here in the United States. And there are these valid and understandable questions about the long-term commitment of the United States because of what these allies and partners are seeing about shifting politics and skepticism among some in the right wing in Congress, among some presidential candidates. And that is a valid concern that the president is doing his best to try to navigate.
And they see how divided we are as a country and how closely divided these divisions are when you look at head-to-head races. And they read the polls as well as we do. Jen, one of those big issues was cluster bombs. The Britons are not happy about it. Great Britain isn't, Germany, France. And even within the administration's own cabinet, the UN ambassador, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, called it a war crime before.
Yes, and I actually did when I was there. I said it could be a war crime when the Russians were using it. Now, how Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, has talked about this is Ukraine is being attacked on their own home soil. They are trying to defend their people and their land. And that's how they made this decision. I'm certain it was not an easy one. I'm certain it was a divided decision and a lot of difficult decisions around it. But they felt it was needed, clearly, to help the Ukrainians in this time to try to make progress in defending their own country.
What it tells you is how critical they think this counteroffensive is, which is not going as well as they had hoped.